Welcome to Cosmic Comics, Games and Collectibles, your zen of geekism. We carry comics old and new, magazines, toys, games like Pokemon, Magic, D&D. Want Godzilla, Ultraman, Star Trek, Ninja Turtles, Funko Pops? You'll find it all here. Shop our Cosmic Sound Room and pick up a record or two. Enjoy our Comic Coffee Lounge with a cup of Sasquatch coffee or a delicious menu item while geeking out over a super cool movie on our big screen. Come by and say hello to Maui. Cosmic Comic, Games and Collectibles. Superman loves us, and so will you.
And good evening. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. And once again, we are going to be talking with the people who create the stuff that we love to read, the action stories, the super fiction. Although this time it's more of a supernatural fiction. And I'm sorry, boys and girls, but you're going to have to read a lot more words. There's no pictures in this one. This is not a crowdfunded comic book like we normally have on here. This is a bona fide novel. And we are pleased to welcome to the show Mr. John Robinson. If my mouse will click, it's technology. Don't you want to? No, I'll argue with it later. John, how are you tonight? Welcome to the show.
Hey, man, everything's amazing. I appreciate you having me on so we can talk a little werewolves, a little wrestling, whatever you want, man. Sunshine and the full moon.
Man, I tell you what, I mentioned that we normally do a lot of crowd-funded comic book talk on here. People doing stuff on Indiegogo, people doing stuff on Kickstarter. Werewolves are like all over the place. I must do a werewolf story every 2 weeks with different creators. There's just every once in a while something slips into the zeitgeist of publishing, and just everybody wants to do one. Now, I know that these people have been working on it for like 6-8 months. When did you get the idea to start working with a werewolf as a character in a story?
Man, so I've always been obsessed with werewolves since I was a little kid. I remember Halloween. I'd always want to be a werewolf. My parents bought me a costume. It had like fur going down the neck, and it was so expensive that they said, if you get this costume, you have to be a werewolf every year. And they thought like that was going to discourage me, and I was like, hell yeah, werewolf every year.
Do I only get to wear it on Halloween?
Yeah, exactly. So the concept, it's been floating around in my mind, but really I had a dream, and the dream was of my daughter, and she got attacked by a werewolf. And basically in the dream, I mean, my daughter's never broken a bone in her life, but in the dream she had like a cast on her arm, and the werewolf like tackled her. And when it went to chomp down on her face, she raised her arm and it bit on the cast. And like the saliva from the werewolf was like dripping down on her face. And I like woke up like frantic. Like, first was like, is everything okay? And then second was like, wow, that'd be an amazing scene for like a book or a movie.
Yeah.
So I kind of started with that scene and worked backwards to create a story. And, so we always called my daughter Sunshine. The book is called Sunshine and the Full Moon. So it just kind of, she's like this sassy, funny superstar athlete in real life. And I kind of I took her sass, I took her athleticism, I took a lot of the funny things that we talk about, on a day-to-day basis, inserted a werewolf, and, went from there. It also, the kind of the basis of the story is the girl goes geocaching. I don't know if you've ever been
it's something you do with smartphones and traveling.
Pretty much, yeah. It's almost like, even like a Pokemon Go type thing where, you're looking down at the longitude and latitude, and you'll find little treasures in each city. It's like a treasure hunt. And the whole point is, people will leave like a little box, and maybe there'll be something in the box, and you take something and then you give something back. So you put it in the box, and people will find everything from like cameras to like take a picture of yourself, like a Polaroid, and leave the picture. People will find, coins, little prizes. So basically in the story, the girl goes geocaching and stumbles upon like a werewolf den and a mystery that's been haunting a town in like the California Gold Coast, Gold Country, for decades, and madness ensues.
Now your daughter didn't really break her arm after you had the dream, right?
No, luckily
Okay.
she did not.
Okay, because that would be like, I'd start checking other things like, wait a minute.
Yeah, looking for full moons, man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So does your daughter share your love of the Wolfman and the monster genre?
In a little bit, when she was a kid, when she was small, she played with like Monster High dolls like all the time, which was like, the Barbies with monsters, and Claude Wolf was her favorite. There was Draculaura, and we'd play Heath Burns, and we'd play with all these characters on a daily basis. So monsters are always a part of our life.
Very cool. Yeah, the Claude Burns. Wasn't Claude Rains one of the werewolf characters? I wonder if they named it.
He was, yeah. So I'm sure that's why Claude Wolf was the character.
Yeah. Lon Wolf would have just not gone over. People don't get the reference anymore.
Yeah.
Larry Talbot, that would have been just too on the nose. Now this is also kind of a departure for you genre wise, because first of all, it's fiction. And you're a published author who's written several other books that were nonfiction, interview, biography kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I did everything from, the biography of the Ultimate Warrior in WWE to, a lot of wrestling type books. Did one with Pete Gas and the Mean Street Posse. Did a Road Stories book with WWE called Rumble Road, where they actually put me on the road with the wrestlers, and they told me a lot of funny stories about crazy haunted hotels to just trying to find and scavenge for food at 3 a.m. The WWE wrestlers before COVID, they were on the road 250 days a year, and
Sure.
they'd pile in cars and share hotel rooms to kind of cover expenses, and it's a crazy life. I did a book on the Attitude Era. So back in the day when I was first, I was actually in college. I used to write for a magazine called Game Pro, which was like the big video game magazine of the day.
Very aware.
And yeah, cool. So I was Johnny Ballgame of Game Pro magazine back then, and did a cover story on WWF Attitude, which was like the big game back then, and got to interview like Stone Cold and The Rock and Mankind and Triple H and China. For this cover story. I mean, I was still in college. I was an intern at a magazine, and I pitched the cover story and ended up writing it. And what's funny is, about a month later, my cell phone rings, and it's The Rock, and he wasn't big back then. He was just kind of like coming into his own, and he'd be like, Johnny Ballgame is Rock. I'm coming back to the Bay Area. Let's go hang out and play video games. So when the wrestlers would come into town, the Nation Domination, D'Lo Brown, Mark Henry, Rocky, we'd go and play Madden all day. And, my wife, back when we were first dating, I'd bring her like backstage, and we'd hang out with like Rocky and, his wife, Danny, back then. And he'd be like, we didn't even have seats. They'd be like, oh yeah, you want to go watch the match? And they'd like bring out a folding chair and we just sit in the aisle. Like it was crazy back then.
That's amazing that you had that close of a rapport with them, and you're right there in my era too. I mean, I was there up through Hulk Hogan's heel turn with the NWO.
Oh yeah,
and of course back then it was like I don't know, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm more jaded when I watch. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a booker taking care of all of this, and there's a but back then I was like, in my 30s, I was supposed to still be an adult, and Hulk Hogan rips the shirt off, and I'm like, oh my god!
Yeah, no, it's cool. I was a Mr. Perfect man. Like Mr. Perfect was like my favorite guy. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Macho Man. It was fun, like getting to work at a video game magazine where there were wrestling games, and they were actively like, hey, you want to go hang out with these guys and play video games. And then, I became friends with them. And funny enough, D'Lo Brown and Mick Foley have copies of Sunshine and the Full Moon currently.
Nice.
I'll do my Mick Foley. They're reading the book right now. So, I've been able to keep in touch with a lot of the guys. And, last time I went to Las Vegas before COVID, that's where D'Lo lives, and, hung out with them still. So it's great to keep up with these guys.
Do you still keep up with wrestling in general as it is today? I mean, with all the new stars and what's going on in there?
Oh, yeah. So recently I wrote a book called Creating the Mania, which was basically taking a year in WWE and seeing how they formulate the card for WrestleMania. So, I talked to all the current guys, Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman, to even like the guys who do the creative writing and come up with, booking the matches. So it was actually a pretty interesting behind the scenes kind of interview book. And then I also did a book on NXT, which is the WWE's development system.
Right.
So what's cool about that is I talked to a lot of these guys like Finn Balor, Samoa Joe when they were in NXT, and then to see them like come up and, move into the main roster, and then kind of move. It's interesting what's going on. Like Finn moves up and then he went back to NXT because he thought NXT was the cool place to be. And unfortunately, like Joe's not even with WWE anymore. But wrestling is like just a crazy performance sport.
It is. I mean, you got to be very athletic. Yes, it's written. It's a soap opera, but you still got to be very, very athletic to pull off all the things that they do, and they get hurt a lot.
Oh man, it's almost like it. I mean, it's an amazing like stunt show. It's like like you said, like they know what's about to happen, but things go wrong, and you can write that I'm falling off these ropes onto my back, but man, it still hurts.
Yes, absolutely, it still hurts.
Just because it's scripted doesn't mean I'm not getting injured.
Yeah, I think I started not being as not having to watch it all the time right about the time that WWE assumed WCW. I mean, I was there flipping channels back and forth when Vince McMahon was on both networks suddenly, cutting in and taking over. Like, wait, this isn't right. This is wrong. And I guess maybe the lack of competition between the two networks, and they had to up their game to always be ahead of the other one. I felt like the stories just kind of devolved. And it was around that time, I was in North Carolina at the time. My wife and I went to Godfather's Pizza, and it was just a little buffet pizza place, and had a big screen TV on, and it wasn't really crowded. And like, oh, they got wrestling on, but I have no idea who these people are. And does that guy have a 2x4 with barbed wire around it? Why is that guy just sitting? And it was the first time we ever saw it was Tom. I remember it was Tommy Dreamer just wailing on Raven. And Raven's just sitting in the corner with his grunge outfit on and letting them all hit. And I was like, we're like, what are we watching here? Because it was the first time we got interested in wrestling again.
Okay.
And
there's WWE's got fierce competition right now. There's a new kind of crew called All Elite Wrestling. Cody Rhodes, son of Dusty Rhodes, is one of the guys who started this, along with Kenny Omega, who was a big star in Japan, and the Young Bucks. And they stole some of WWE's talent. John Moxley used to be Dean Ambrose, and they have a very exciting show. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. They're on TNT.
Well, so they need more competition.
Yeah, definitely.
It seems like a lot of the wrestlers. I'm going to get back. I'm formulating the segue to cycle this back. The squirrels are running in the wheel. But it seems like a lot of actors these days, a lot of wrestlers these days, got ahead of myself, move into acting. We see that, the Rock is now, and they try to, it seems like they start with action and then they gradually move into family friendly kind of thing. The Rock pretty much set that in motion. John Cena's doing it now with, he's gone action, then he went Bumblebee, and then he went, that Firehouse movie that he did with the kids. He's got a lot of range to him.
He's in Fast and Furious coming up. I mean, this is going to be huge for him. And Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad, and Suicide Squad is going to spin him off into The Peacemaker on HBO Max as a series.
Yeah, that's gonna be great.
It is. I'm curious, what's your take on his video that he had to do recently? Because he made that whole statement about the country of Taiwan, and I guess China got angry with him, and he felt the need to apologize. Was that something he really needed to do, or you think he was told to do that? Or are you even aware that he did that?
Oh, actually, I didn't see it. It didn't make my news feed, I guess.
It didn't make news. Yeah, he just impressed on the people of China, and he speaks Mandarin, which impressed the hell out of me.
Yeah, a lot of those guys, because they go on so many tours overseas, they end up, learning different languages so they can communicate. I know Cesaro is one of those guys. Just speaks a number of languages and is, really funny and amazing to talk to. So many of those guys are just very personable, very intelligent. So yeah, it's exciting to see them cross over and see more of them be successful in other avenues.
I think language training is also something that they offer as a perk to the wrestlers to learn second languages. It seemed like I heard that somewhere, and John just chose Mandarin, and why not? There's a fourth of the world speaks it, so there's a very good chance you'll run into somebody. So, bringing that back to Sunshine and the Full Moon, most really good YA novels these days are quickly optioned up for movies. So, given that this might happen, I don't know if you've given it any consideration or not, but have you pictured who might be acting any of the particular roles, and do you cast them in your head when you're writing the characters?
No, I think for this one, because the girl's 14, her kind of friend is 12. Like they're the two main characters. So I think it would really have to be, almost like new kind of breakout stars.
If the younger ones,
this
sure.
was made into a film. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't want somebody, 20 years old playing a 14-year-old. Yeah, those days are over.
Not
hopefully.
that they don't do it.
Yeah.
But, maybe
I think
to play the werewolf.
Yeah, I think because the main character is based on my daughter. I picture her when I wrote it. I didn't really picture a celebrity, but for other things I'm working on, you do kind of cast it, I think, in your mind, and you be like, oh, this would be perfect for The Rock or whoever.
Yeah. Now in your book, you mentioned that she's participating in this geocaching activity, and she runs across a den of werewolves, a werewolf den. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and you're going to have to tell me that I'm going to have to read the book to find out, because I'm going to be curious about stuff. But
just book comes out June 15th, so I can't spoil too much, but I'll tell you what I can.
Okay, so that's only 3 weeks.
Yeah,
it feels like a long time when you're waiting for the book to come up. I know the longest will be the day before. Was the werewolf den what she was supposed to find at those coordinates?
Oh no, she was looking, kind of exploring a town. What happens is she's from kind of like the San Francisco Bay Area, and she's a like softball superstar kid, and she breaks her arm in like a tournament, and so she gets sent off to go visit her grandmother, who lives in the California gold country, like up in the mountains. And it's an old, I don't know if you've ever been up there, but these towns, it's like time stood still at some of them. You walk around like creaky wood sidewalks, and it's like stepping back into the old west.
Okay.
And when I was a kid, my grandparents actually lived up there, and like right on the river, and they owned a motel. And you'd walk outside, and they'd tell you like, oh, don't kick over a rock because there would be a snake. Like it's that type of thing. And I'd actually go down into the river and try to mine for gold. So she goes to this town and starts exploring and with the geocaching, and is looking for a fun adventure.
So when she finds the werewolves, is there any kind of attack? Is she in any? She's not going to become a werewolf. She's just seen them. Has she been? Does she get attacked and she's like got a certain amount of time to stop something before she turns? I mean, what's driving her after she finds the werewolves to continue on with this werewolf adventure?
So, without trying to spoil too much, let's just say that the town has been under attack for a very long time, and people don't quite know what was happening. Like, there's rumors: are there bears? Is it Bigfoot? Like, nobody wants to believe it's a werewolf, right? And it kind of goes into like the mystery of the history of the town, which is introduced through the book. And eventually, she discovers that there's been a lot of deaths, and like there's a young girl who goes missing, and she's trying to help find the girl while uncover like who is this crazy werewolf that's killing people. So
she's there alone, not alone. She's with her grandmother, but she's in new territory. She doesn't know the people there. Finds a mystery, and she's just naturally going to go Nancy Drew, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, it's funny. That's one of the quotes. You get endorsement quotes and early reviews, and someone said it's Nancy Drew meets Stephen King. So you're not too far off on that.
I'm just trying to get into the nature of her character. As some people they find a werewolf den, they run home. They're like, I'm going to go home now. I want to go back to my parents. I don't want to stay here anymore, and I'm gone. And she's 14, and she's like, this town's under attack. Nobody believes it's werewolves. I'm the only one who knows what they really are. Where's my silver bullets?
Yeah, something along those lines. She's scared, obviously, but at the same time, she doesn't back down. And I think that's what she's got a friend that she meets in town. The friend's brother is the sheriff in town, and so she's got some connections. They meet other people with give great advice on bear spray and, like you said, silver bullets, and different ways to defeat possibly a werewolf.
Now, every YA book I've ever had to read, and I've read more than my share of them through review purposes for criticalblast.com, especially when they're female-led characters in the books, always delves into some sort of a romance arena. Shaking your head, no, there was no need for romance, or no, this I'm dad and this is my daughter, so I'm not going to create the guy that's going to make me angry.
Yeah, man, she's 14. No, there's no romance in this book. Maybe I romanticize werewolves a little too much, but there's no. This isn't Twilight. There's no picking between. It's more like I said, she's a very sassy character. She's got a smart mouth. I think it's a lot of pretty funny dialogue. She's a big baseball fan. There's probably more baseball than romance. Because she plays softball, and her dad was like a former minor league player for the A's. So they kind of go into his history of getting injured, and how she grew up playing baseball and softball. So there's a lot of baseball history in there as well, but no romance.
All right, good. Now, you had said that she finds a werewolf den, and I hadn't really thought about what that means. So I don't know if there is a werewolf that's attacking the town, or if there are plural werewolves. There's a pack of them. Is it just one, or does she find a whole family of them?
Man, that's an excellent question.
I'm gonna have to find out.
Now,
I know what that means.
Yeah, I guess the best way to answer is they have a nickname for the werewolf. The town is called Dathanville, and they call it the Dathanville Devil. So there is one in particular that they're looking for, and who's been stalking the town.
Okay,
but that doesn't mean there weren't more.
Doesn't mean there weren't. Well, there's where there's one, there's got to be the one who made him, and then there's got to be the one who made him. We've watched enough movies to know how this works. And the thing is that there is a him behind a werewolf. It's a traditional werewolf. I mean, if it's a cryptid creature living out in the woods all the time, then that's different. But werewolf, during the day, he's a man, which means he's one of the townspeople, I would have to assume. And that's wherein your mystery is going to come along.
Yeah.
So did you find it challenging, right? You know, first time, this is your first fiction, right? I don't want to say first time fiction writer and be wrong.
It is my first novel. So it's exciting times, something I always wanted to do. You know, I went to San Francisco State in a creative writing program. You know, a lot of great writers been down those halls. You know, like Anne Rice's husband used to teach there.
Cool.
You know, Amy Tan from Joy Luck Club. You know, a lot of great writers. And, you know, I kind of went, when I graduated from college, you know, I got the job at GamePro. Ended up writing for, you know, everyone from ESPN, the magazine, Sports Illustrated, did a lot of sports and video games. So yeah, you know, writing's always been a passion. You know, I dabble in some poetry, you know, short stories. So this is my first, you know, novel, but you know, it won't be my last. I'm already working on the sequel. Sunshine and Eternal Darkness is coming soon.
I was going to say, you got to do 7 books when you do this thing. It's always 7 books. It's, you know, Sunshine and 7 other subtitles. Did you find it challenging though to create the mystery and hide the character without making it, you know, obvious that, oh yeah, this is the guy who's acting cagey through the whole thing. It's him.
Yeah, you know, and what's really cool to hear is the early readers, the early reviewers. One thing they've all said is like they were really surprised of how the mystery unraveled and that it kept them guessing. So that's something as a writer, it makes me excited that, you know, I had one of my friends who is like a movie director. I don't know if you ever heard of Murder, Barry, Win. It's a really cool horror film that came out. It's on iTunes right now. But you know, he was reading it and he was texting me like, "Oh, I bet this is what's gonna happen." And then he's like, "Nah, that's not what happened." You know, so it's cool to hear him. And like I said, there's been a lot of reviewers who have read it and have hit me back and said how much they love the book, but that the ending really surprised them. So that's cool.
That's good when you can subvert expectations without, you know, saying, no, it was this guy you never saw the whole time, who's just now in the last chapter. That's when you've done your job well. I have, I guess I have a few werewolf stories that I remember having read that were really particular favorites. One was in college. It was in our literature class when I was in college. And I've researched it, and I can, danged if I can remember or find it, but I'm sure that the title was called The Wives' Tale. I just can't remember the author's name. But it was, you know, told from the perspective of the wife of the werewolf. And she's going through the whole thing where she, like, you know, I'm sure he's a monster, you know, and, you know, the day changes and he disappears, he's gone, and he comes back and he smells funny. And it ends with her, you know, waking up early, and, you know, it's like, you know, and that's when you realize something's a little bit hinky here, because she's like, I'm up and the sky is just a little bit pink, and he's out of our bed, and his body is stretching and growing, and his fur is disappearing, and he's turning pale and naked, and he looks like one of those men, and I have to kill him now. So she was the maid of the werewolf, but in his wolf form all the time, and it was from the perspective of a female wolf telling the story. I thought it was a particularly cool. Nice hook.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that one up. You know, I think you know, I've always been love, you know, movies like The Goonies, The Lost Boys. You know, I think I try to Stand By Me, things like that, where I think I tried to have like the adventure and fun, while at the same time, you know, providing a few thrills and chills along the way.
Now, did you have any particular werewolf stories of your own? Yeah, they could be movies, but just whether books or movies.
It's gonna sound cheesy, but my favorite werewolf movie of all time is Teen Wolf. Man, if you give a werewolf a basketball, it can't be stopped.
Yeah,
as a sports fan, and I mean that hit perfectly when I was a kid. Michael J. Fox. I just those scenes just crack me up, man. Playing basketball. Yeah. If that movie comes on right now, I'll watch it.
Well, you were a sports guy and a werewolf guy. That couldn't be a better movie for you.
No, they really couldn't.
So you mentioned that you've been able to write for ESPN magazine. Did that sort of spin out of your wrestling connections that you made through writing for the Game magazine?
No, they were reading what I was writing. I started working for this website called IGN, which is a big entertainment website.
Oh yeah.
I was writing a lot of sports and sports video game stuff there, and wrestling as well. And the editors at ESPN the magazine were just stumbled upon me. I don't know, they were reading my articles there, and I just got a random call like, "Hey, do you want to come write for us?" And it was like, "Hell yeah!" The access. IGN's great, but IGN's great for video games, and now they've evolved into movies and television. They have a lot more connections. But back then, I mean, there were 40 people working there, and we had to hustle to get any kind of interview that we did. And all of a sudden, I went from that to ESPN the magazine, where I'm like, "Hey, Giants, I want to talk to Buster Posey," and they're like, "Yeah, come down to the stadium." That's a big difference.
It's a big difference.
Yeah,
that's like I'm probably 2 weeks into it. They give you a check. You're like, I get paid for this too. I get to talk all my favorites and get paid.
Yeah, they gave me a column called The Gamer in the magazine where, I was basically paid to go play video games against the best athletes in the world. I'd talk all kinds of trash when I beat them. And then I'd write articles about it in the magazine. And, and then they gave me my own kind of blog on ESPN.com for a while. I mean, that was a great time. That was when ESPN was flush in cash, let me tell you. Not like how it is now where, they have all the layoffs and, unfortunate cost cutting. But back then they were like, "Here, kid, here's a credit card, all expenses paid. We don't care where you stayed, hotels, you can go play video games with LeBron."
Yeah, exactly.
Those were the days, man.
Right. So you had in your hand there just a little bit ago, you had the hardcover advanced copy of Sunshine and the Full Moon. That's not an ARC. That is hardcover. That's the deal. Have you read it yet?
Oh man! So I read this book so many times. It's funny because you write the book, you edit it, or at least the way I wrote it. It was if you want to talk process, I wrote about 1,500 to 2,000 words a day, and just kind of 5 days a week and I would just chug through it. And as I write, the next day I'd go back and edit what I wrote the day before. And then, got to the end of the book and then reread it and edited it and was like, "Oh yeah, I actually forgot I wanted to do this scene, or I want to change how this scene works." So you end up reading books that you write so many times, and then trying to go through and this is a traditionally published books, right? So you send it to publishers. So I found Kohler Books, been great to work with. I love the cover. They're like, "All right, here's your advanced kid. We believe in you." It's exciting to hey, this is my first novel, and I convinced somebody to pay me, and they're publishing it for me. So many people go to the Kickstarter route or end up self-publishing, which it's amazing that that's even out there, that people have that option if they want. I would have eventually went that route if I kept hearing no, but somebody gave me a check and a yes, so here we are.
Oh yeah, always take that first. It's
yeah,
a lot less trouble. And I'm saying that as a guy who publishes Critical Blast has got all kinds of tentacles coming out of this Hydra, and one of them is a book publishing arm. So we've done the publishing thing, and I'm the editor there. But I know how, writing my own books for Destroyer Books, you can get so close to it that you just don't see the stuff any. In fact, when my books do get published, the last thing I want to do is read them because I've read it already. I've read it so many times, I don't want to read it again.
Yeah, but and then you'd read it this is like the sixth time I've read through this book, going through the little copy edits and different things. It's that it goes to like a developmental editor, and then he gives back like his suggestions, and goes to a copy editor, and then you keep having to look through the same text because then they make comments about it, and do you want to change this or that? But yeah, it's quite the process. But I'm thrilled with how it came out. And like I said, man, like people have been reading it, been giving me such love that I'm just thrilled and can't wait for this thing to come out June 15th. And then the distribution, that's the thing, right? When you self-publish, a lot of times you're just on Amazon.
Yeah.
And to have a publisher where they're like, all right, we're in Amazon, Barnes and Noble. Oh, here's a link to Target. You're in Target. It's that's another whole level of damn, Target,
we have a catalog that people read through to buy books on, so you're not just relying on people stumbling upon it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then plus I'm really excited. We support a bunch of the indie bookstores, and I hope to, once this COVID situation is over, I want to go visit libraries, and I wanted to go to a bunch of these indie bookstores and do readings and meet with people and, talk about this book. Everything so far is like this, everything's virtual, but, I'm out here in San Francisco, and the COVID numbers just keep going down, and things are opening up in California finally. And, I just can't wait to go out. I'm vaccinated. I got both doses, so let's go.
Have you looked into the horror convention scene?
Oh yeah, I'm actually a member of the Horror Writers Association in the San Francisco chapter.
You just got the one book out. It's not even out yet. You're in the club. Come on.
Hey man, it's a good book, man.
Science Fiction Writers Association had to have at least 2 books done by a professional publication first.
This one, one book. It's like I said, it's a big book. It's a real publisher, so they let me in.
Absolutely.
Maybe I got in the back door. I don't know, but they let me in, so I'm staying. That's
what's been hurting me emotionally this past year with books, is that there's been no convention circuit to be able to go to. I'm like, I like sitting at the table, and I like selling my book to people, but I like talking to people about the books and the characters, and especially if they've been longtime fans or if they're fans of the genre. I learn new things from them, and you get to see them again the next year, and you remember them, and you pick up the conversation where you left off.
Oh, definitely. And I just actually had my first meeting with the San Francisco chapter, and they were excited because they didn't have any YA authors at the San Francisco table, for the horror conventions and stuff. So they were like, hey, we can't wait to, have our table and have you there, because it'll bring another whole audience for everybody.
Well, apparently the book is so good that in recognition of it being released on June 15th, California is going to open up on that day so that everyone can go and share the book with everybody. So you'll be able to go into libraries and conventions and bookstores and do the whole signing thing, which, I don't know if book signings are as big of a deal with the biography pieces, because I've not worked in that genre. Do you do that kind of a tour for those kind of books when you did the wrestling books?
Oh, actually, what was amazing was for the wrestling books, some of the wrestlers would come along. We had Sheamus and Cesaro doing a book signing at Barnes and Noble during WrestleMania weekend, and thousands of people showing up. And it's amazing because they had people showing up with action figures, and they took all kinds of pictures of the book, and people are reading the book in line, and Cesar was like tweeting me like, "Oh, I'm reading the book, like it's awesome," So it's cool. Some of the other ones like the Pete Gas book, like Pete uh, is able to take those to conventions, and yeah, he does a lot of signings. I helped him write it, but I don't think anyone. I don't know. They wouldn't want my signature. They would want Pete's.
Yeah. So this is going to be really the first time that they're coming to a book that's your book. I mean, there were your books before, but that's not what the draw was. The subject of the book was more of the draw.
Yeah, for sure. I did a couple events, for like Rumble Road and My Favorite Match and different things where, people, they're really interested in the stories like of the book, but it's because of the wrestlers that are in the stories. But, Sunshine and the Full Moon, this is my story. This is my daughter's story, minus the werewolf.
Yeah.
But, it means a lot to me. And,
and it's going to mean a lot to her. I mean, she's going to show this to her children someday and say, look, this is your grandpa wrote this about me when I was a kid. And of course, they're going to want to know all about the werewolf, but then they'll read it and pass it on. It's going to be something that you're going to leave a family legacy, kind of a mark here.
Yeah, it's funny because when I first started writing it, I don't think it dawned on me like how important it would be to the family. But I've heard from my parents, her grandparents, cousins, like it does seem to mean a lot to a lot of people. And we still have 3 weeks before it comes out. So
yes,
we'll see what happens when they actually read it. And then, hopefully they like it.
Now, you talked about process earlier, and the page word count per day that you would put in the editing. Do you start with a full outline before you start writing, or do you just sit down and start throwing words on the page and clean them up later?
That's a hilarious story because, or a great question too, a hilarious story because I guess I'm so old. I wrote the outline in a notebook, like I hand wrote it, and I had everything for what I wanted to do in the book in this notebook, and my wife was cleaning up and she threw it out. So,
yep, I do.
Oh, look at that!
You got to hand write it because it slows your brain down to make you think.
So my wife threw out my outline of Sunshine and the Full Moon when my original concept, when in my head back then it was called Sunshine and the Wolf Tooth. So I basically was like, screw it. I remember. I have a really good memory for things like, I could still tell you almost word for word, like interviews with people that I did, like athletes, 8 years ago. I could tell you what they said. And, I don't know how I can remember like as a kid, like crawling out of my crib and like walking up to my parents. So I have like memories,
wow,
like vividly from like, under 2 years old. So luckily she threw out the paper, but I still had it in my brain. So I was just like, screw it. And I just started writing it. And then I was like, well, I need some kind of like timeline just for like myself. So I rewrote it and then I hid that notebook. So
I've always wanted to get myself like a permanent room and put up the big whiteboard and just start using sticky notes and moving chapters around and making it look all official. I've tried to use the sticky notes in a book before, and basically all I do is make a mess and throw the sticky notes away. I was like, you know what, just write.
Yeah, the way I do it, I mean, I just like to like I said, like I need to be like a full locomotive going forward and just like start it and go. If I get any kind of distractions, it might be 3 months before I go back to the book. Like I don't know, I don't know why I get so distracted, but
I can relate. And if I over architect it ahead of time, then when it actually comes time to start writing chapter 1, my brain is like, why are we doing this again? We've written this story. And I've got to say, no, you haven't really written this story. You just know it very well.
Yeah. So actually, like, because like my daughter played so much softball, like, kind of the book starts at like a softball tournament, like I said, where she gets injured. But I had in my mind of like her starting softball to get to the town. And I banged all that out in one day. Like that was before the whole like 15 to 2,000 words. Like I probably wrote, a quarter of the book in a day.
Wow. You were
and
in
then
the flow, as we call it.
yeah, and then I did like take some time like to think about it more. Like I almost wanted to like have the whole book in my mind before I kind of finish it. And once I got it, all kind of settled of like, okay, this is the mystery, and this is, you know, how I want to get to the end. Then
Yeah.
I just, like I said, I banged it out.
Now, at what point in the process did you know there was a second book?
Right away. Like at first, I kind of changed my mind on what I was going to do. At first, I was going to do 3 werewolf books, and it was going to be Sunshine and the Wolf's Tooth, Sunshine and the Full Moon, and Sunshine and the Silver Bullet. And then I decided that I want to start with Sunshine and the Full Moon because I thought that was the best title. I just think it's cool, like the sun and the moon. And I think the way they made like the cover look, with the wolf with the moon with the sun behind it. And it just made for like a very cool visual. And I think like right away, you know what that is, right? Like Sunshine and the Full Moon, and there's a werewolf in the cover. Like there's no like question of like, what type of book is this?
Exactly. There's a big old wolf on the cover, and he's standing on 2 legs. So,
and I basically came up with the idea of the second book. Like I knew I wanted to do a series, and I came up with the idea of the second book probably like halfway through. I figured out already like, okay, this is how the mystery of the first book will end, and this is kind of how the mystery will carry over through the end of the second book. Like different aspects of the storyline and the characters. So like I said, right now the working title is Sunshine and Eternal Darkness. So you could probably get some hints of where I'm going.
Now, same setting. I mean, same Gold Rush Town, or is she going to go somewhere else?
No, she's going to go somewhere else because that was basically just for that book because, she went to go live with her grandmother. So now she's no longer injured, and, we'll see what happens. I can't spoil too much. I mean, we're talking about book 2. Book 1's not even out yet.
Yeah, she's going to go somewhere else, and she's going to run into. I kind of picture if your daughter's watching any of the Die Hard movies, and I kind of picture like John McCain in the second in Die Hard 2 going, I can't believe this is happening again.
So one of my favorite movie series, by the way. So.
Oh, it's a great movie series. It's a Christmas movie too. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. So, I guess I was going to ask you, like kind of what kind of werewolf it is, but we know that it's been attacking people, so it's an attacking kind of werewolf. It's a vicious monster kind of werewolf. It's not the please just leave me alone, I can't help what happens to me when I change kind of werewolf. I'll put it like this: if you did get to make the movie and you got to cast the perfect wrestler for this role, who would you put in the fur and the claws?
That's a good question. So you're kind of tricking me into telling you who the character is.
No. I don't want that. I just mean like for sheer muscle and ferocity and scariness.
I'm a big fan of Roman Reigns.
Okay.
I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's recently appeared with The Rock in Hobbs and Shaw. I think he is looking to maybe further his acting career. This would be a good one. If he would fit the character, but I think he'd be a cool werewolf just because how muscular he is, and he's got charisma off the charts.
Oh yeah. I wasn't trying to get you to cast the human side of the werewolf. I just meant the stunt body of the werewolf. Who would attack her.
I think Roman Reigns would be great. He does his little yell in the ring. I think we'll change it into a howl and let him cut loose.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be awesome. And
we'll get $7. Oh yeah, we'll get $7 Productions on this, man. Roman is The Rock's cousin. We'll get Rock to finance, put up the money.
I did not know that.
Let's make this happen. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, right before the movie comes out, he comes out to a match in full Werewolf at whatever match just happens to be that week. That's promotion right there. All right, John, is there anything about Sunshine and the Full Moon that you've been wanting to talk about? That's not a secret, but that nobody's asked you about, and I certainly have been dancing around it. Something that just needs to get out.
Not really. Just June 15th is a big day for us, except for my family, and I'm very excited for people to meet this character. It's almost like wrestling. They say like, oh, how do you come up with your wrestling persona? And they say it's my real persona, on full volume or times 10. And I think that's definitely this is my daughter on times 10. She's a very hilarious person. Very sassy. She's got quite the mouth on her, and I definitely play that up as much as possible, as much as the censors would let me.
You have anything special planned for the 15th on book birthday? You have a party or?
Yeah, it's still working on that. Like you said, California just said that we can open back up. So, at first I was thinking, maybe doing like a virtual interview or a virtual like book hosting type event. But, if we could pull something off in person, that'd be great. I just get to celebrate with my family. Yeah, that's an amazing time.
All right. Well, John, appreciate you being on here tonight and letting us know a little bit more about Sunshine and the Full Moon. Folks, it is out on June 15th, but fear not, you can go ahead and give Amazon your money right now. They've got pre-orders that you can get to. And if you want to do that, the link for this is to the Amazon book version is right below in the description. Right underneath this video square that you're watching right now. You can click on it right now and it would not have taken you away from this video, so you wouldn't have lost anything. You can still hear it and everything. Put your orders in. Get those numbers up, because I'm going to tell you what an author does the first day that a book releases on Amazon. They hit F5 until the paint comes off the key, because you want to see those numbers change and say, is it going up? Is it going down? People like it. People like it. Oh, wait, it went down. Oh, no, it's going back up again. Yeah, that's a thing. That happens. So,
and it's exciting because it's going to be, you can order right now in hardcover, paperback, or ebook.
They're doing simultaneous paperback release.
Yeah. Okay. So there's, whatever format you want.
Yeah, we waited a year for our first young adult superhero novel, Bulletproof, by Stephen J. Mitchell. Also way down in the links because we put everything down there. We did a hardcover release of that one. It's like, well, when are you going to do paperback? I'm like, well, when are you going to do the next story? He's like, next year. Like, well, then next year we'll put it in paperback right before you go to hardcover. And a year went by, and I'm like, I better put it in paperback because COVID hit, and he was hit by that economically and financially, and had the job was gone. I'm like, yeah, we're just going to put it in paperback now so you can sell more books and get you out there. And now he's back to work and hard at work on the book. So.
Yeah, no, it's important to have it in whatever format people want, and just to get it out there.
Ebook is popular. You'll sell so many ebooks because it's just handy for people. People love who love lots of books and don't have any more shelf space. Me, I've always wanted that library in like Beauty and the Beast. I was like, yeah, if I had that room, I would still fill it with books, and have them stacked on the floor and yeah. But we're bibliophiles. We'd do that.
Oh yeah,
John, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks so much, man.
Everyone in the chat, we appreciate you sitting through here, listening to it. We do hope you'll go out and support John's book. And as always,